The tragic hero is an archetypal character structure divined by the ancient Greeks, but still explored even by today's writers. In this video, you, the student, will learn the basic elements of a tragic hero, including how it began with the Greeks and how it morphed into the archetype utilized by William Shakespeare. There are 8 basic principles behind the Shakespearean tragic hero. Please take notes over those principles. First, the ancient Greeks loved a good tragedy. The archetype everybody refers to was first developed by Aristotle in his writing Poetics. In this writing, he explored what humans want in a tragedy: a tragic hero with a fatal flaw that pushes him to his downfall. However, they believed in fate and that the tragic hero wasn't a master of his end, but the gods were. In a way, the Greeks used tragedies as a way to instruct the audience on proper behavior and respect for the gods. Though Aristotle first wrote down the archetype, many other playwrights many centuries later were exploring tragedy on their own. Shakespeare, for example, is famous for writing 10 tragedies. He was not, though, aware of Poetics because it hadn't quite been introduced to England in the late 1500s. Thus, his tragic hero, while maintaining some important elements of the classical tragic hero, does have some significant deviations. Shakespeare's tragic hero doesn't care about fate, but about the inexorable and predictable repetition of human nature. Shakespeare and fellow Elizabethan playwrights explored humanity's greatness and its inevitable failures, such as our ambition, our knowledge, and our desire for revenge, love, and self-worth. He explored these uniquely human aspects, both their positives and negatives. Consequently, there are 8 elements to a Shakespearean tragic hero. First, a Shakespearean tragic hero must be someone of repute, someone with power and far-reaching influence. This means that when they face their inevitable downfall, it also affects those around them greatly. Second, a tragic hero in Shakespeare's writing is basically good. They are relatable to a modern reader and potentially have the ability for further greatness. They certainly aren't perfect, but they are not entirely bad. The tragic hero also typically possesses a desired character trait. They might have great love, generosity, self-worth, ambition, and thoughtfulness. Under normal circumstances, these are admirable traits. However, under the stresses of the plot, these turn on the character and ultimately become their fatal flaw, what leads them to their downfall. Additionally, the tragic hero makes egregious errors. These errors, combined with the fatal flaw, lead him or her to their downfall. These errors and flaws are recognized eventually by the hero, but it is always too late to be reversed. Due to the circumstances of the plot and their own errors and flaws, the character also typically has a distorted perception of reality. For example, the tragic hero may be deluded by what he sees as the goodness of people, when in reality they are not as good as he credits them. Suffering is a major part of the tragic hero archetype. In Shakespeare's tragedies, the tragic hero always suffers both internally and externally. They are conflicted within themselves and are also facing attack from others or circumstances outside of them. This is similar to internal and external conflict. The tragic hero does not escape with his life in a Shakespearean tragedy. They always die as a consequence of their flaw, errors, and the miscalculations they have made. Shakespeare wants us to again feel the ultimate destruction that the protagonist has faced and pity him. Finally, the audience's response is carefully gauged by a playwright, and this is no different for Shakespeare. He wants us to respond to the tragic hero's downfall and resolution with pity, to ultimately be awed by the absolute destruction of the protagonist. This is similar to catharsis in the Greek plays, but where catharsis is centered around a fear of the gods, this is centered around pity for humanity, and that particular human, the tragic hero, in the play. In summary, the Shakespearean tragic hero archetype has 8 basic principles. These include high stature, general goodness, harboring a good trait that is poorly used in the play, errors in judgment and recognition of those errors, a distorted perception of reality, inward and outward suffering, all that leads to the tragic hero's death, and eventually the pity that the audience feels for that character at the end.